Today, I'm super excited because Waves finally released their own drum triggering plugin, and that's right up my alley. So, today we're going to dive in, kind of look at the pros and cons of it, and I can talk about how I like it and dislike it compared to some of the other things like Slate Trigger and Addictive Trigger. I will say, when I first dove into this, for whatever reason, InTrigger did not install the sound library. So, I was a little disappointed the first time I tried to film this video because I didn't have any sounds, nothing was happening. So, I had to stop, go back into Wave Central and manually prompt it to download those samples. I don't know why it didn't happen for me. Hopefully you don't have that issue, but if you do, just go into Wave Central and manually prompt it, tell it to download the included samples. Again, I don't know why mine did not. I'm also using this alongside Cosmos, which is their AI enhanced sample finder, just organizes and catalogs all your samples for you. And again, for whatever reason, when I told Cosmos to open from the plugin, like right here, you can do it. This version of Cosmos, it does sync with the DAW, but I was having a lot of trouble getting it to just play the samples. So I ended up just opening it as a standalone, which you can also do, and it's way easier to just get samples to play that way. I don't know if it was a user error or it's something that needs an update, but just in case you hit those issues, I don't want you struggling and getting frustrated like I did. So those disclaimers out of the way, I have been enjoying it so far. I've used it about an hour. So let me just show you kind of how the setup goes. It does share some similarities to other trigger programs, and then there's also some differences. So let me get these out of there. Here's the drums, just nothing going on. Good sounding drums, but there's definitely like bleed and rumble and all of the things. So let's take a look at this snare track. Okay, so you put it on there and you just hit learn and hit play, and that gets you started. So let's do that. So it's thinking. When it's done, you will have a tighter performance for sure. This weird dot matrix over here kind of shows the different sounds that the AI detected and which ones are good, which are blue, and which ones we're ignoring, which are the red. You can see that represented up here in the waveform section. The blue are the good hits that come through, and the red are the hits that were detected but are being suppressed. For what it's worth, I think this is a really good drum gate. Even if you don't want to trigger samples, if you just want to clean, like not deal with the manual analog gate thing. I say analog, I mean like, manual setting up C1 gate by itself. This is a really nice gate. That's pretty tight. Right here, you do have the gate controls. So if you want a little longer release on your snare, or shorter. Really good. Let me go to like a tom fill and see if there's any issues. So right in here, there's a little extra hits where there probably should not be. I count 3. Let me get a click. So 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. So we should have 3. There's a lot more than that going on. So a couple ways you can deal with this. There's a sensitivity control in the trigger section. And as you pull this down, it will be a little less sensitive and maybe not re-trigger on some of those. So that cleaned it up a little bit. Because it's picking up that tom right here as an actual hit. You can also mess with the re-trigger time, which will stop with kind of those double clicks. Let's pull down the sensitivity one more time. So I think it's this one that's coming through. You can also just click them and tell it no, which is kind of fun. So that actually really helps. So like right here, that's a snare. This is the tom. So we can click it and tell it no. This one, no. which I actually really like that feature. They don't have that in Slate Trigger or Addictive Trigger, which are the other two that I've used. That's really nice because you don't have to rely on controls to try to get that one hit out of there. You could just tell it no, like, hey, don't do that. So that's just getting a clean triggering happening. And now we can add in some samples and try to make it better. So InTrigger comes with its own set of sounds here. So you have all these snares to choose from, or you can drop all your own samples in there. If you're getting it the first week of release, it also comes with the some Yurt Rock samples, and they have a bunch of stuff there too. So depending on what you want to use, you can use theirs, you can use some of your own. This could also be really cool for layering in, like if you want that hybrid acoustic kit with like an 808 clap or something, this would be a great way to do that. But I'll just start by loading up one of their presets. So pull this snare here. Let's try 70s beefy. That sounds fun. Really thick. You can use these arrows right here to cycle through presets. I like that. Right down here, you have the source and the trigger, so you can go back and forth between your original drum and the triggered output and try to blend them a little better, or do what you got to do. So that's not quite blending the way I want. Sometimes you just need to manually tune these. I wish all of these tune things could be linked, because you have volume link here where you can adjust everything. You have a delay link, you have humanize link. But it'd be nice to adjust the tuning of all of them, especially in a situation where we pulled up 4 of the same samples that are like slightly different, and I want to just tune them all the same, but you can't do that. Unfortunately, you have to. That feels like something they could fix in an update, though. So something that immediately bothered me that I had to find a fix for, so if you're in the same boat as me, this will bother you also. It automatically set up these 4 samples as different velocity zones, which I love. So right here, you can see the velocity zones. So this velocity 1 sample, which is played the quietest or the softest on the drum they sampled, covers velocity 0 to 31. This next one is 32 to 36, all the way up to 127. So that's really nice. Depending on how loud or soft the trigger is telling the MIDI to be, it's going to pick one of these 4 samples to play it back. However, I wish, and I was stuck on this for like 10 minutes. I had to read the manual. I wanted the MIDI to be, I want the velocity higher, basically. So I found it. It's right here on this MIDI out. And you can actually set the minimum velocity, and you can adjust the curve. So if you pull this minimum velocity up, it's going to say, hey, there's nothing's going to come out below this number, which is your quiet stuff. So as I push this up, it's going to just push the whole drum performance louder and start to push us into these more aggressive, louder samples. There we go. I'm going to add some more humanize because that's starting to sound robotic. That's kind of more what I'm wanting to hear. There's also a button right here, and it doesn't look like a button, but it is. You can click it and switch what your samples are doing. So velocity is going to keep the velocity mapping that it has and pick a sample based on the velocity. And all layers is going to play everything. It gets loud. Plays all 4 of them. Sequence, it'll go down one after the other. Random, it's just going to pick one and randomly play that. So depending on what you want there, I'm going to keep it on velocity. I'm going to humanize it a little more. All right, let's see what that sounds like in the mix. Did we get more triggers there? Yeah, I think we did. So It's not perfect as far as the detection. So especially, and these are recorded medium well. I did these like 7 years ago, so I didn't have the best gear. But if your drums are worse than this, if you have more bleed, more like your tom is equally loud in the snare mic kind of thing as the snare, you're gonna have some trouble. It's not perfect. It's really good. I really like it, but it's not perfect. It's like with this section again. That shouldn't be triggering. That's a tom. So we got to come in here and tell it no. These two. No, no. Okay. So I do like that you could just go in and tell it no on certain hits. That's really helpful. And I'm not 100% on how to use this either. I just want to show you, and we're kind of diving into it together. So let's move on from this. We won't get too tweaky, and we'll pick something else. I've already dialed in a kick that I kind of like. It already sounds really good. But it just tightens it up, which I really like. So for this, I used the Yurt Rock samples. So for the kick out, I did it was this Rogers kick. So here's the source trigger. And some of you might be wondering if there's like a flam or a delay between the samples, and there can be, but you can adjust it right here with the trigger shift. So this will shift the trigger point forward or backwards from the actual transient. So what that means is if you pull it way down, you will get a slight flam between the two, but you can adjust this till that flam is gone. Right in there is good. You can also adjust the phase of anything right here. I like that a little better. And, we're still getting some cymbal bleed, so we could lean a little more towards the trigger, and it would help with that. Not bad. Not bad at all, though. It's still way faster than any of the other tom cleanup methods that I've used, that's for sure. Again, so maybe it's just my use case with these drums, but there's still, it's not perfect. You still have to tweak some stuff. It's really good though, and for the price, I think it's $50 right now. Really good, considering Slate triggers around 100 and Addictive triggers like 150, I think. Even if you just use it as a gate, like forget the triggering other sounds, it's a really fast, almost, I don't want to say automatic gate, but it takes out a lot of the guesswork of gating. And I really like that. So I want to try and get a little more creative and maybe do like a hybrid. Like let's add like an 808 snare or something in this. All right, so I'm just going to X all these out. We're going to add in a new sample. Whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Cosmos, and let's do Waves Audio Factory Lab right now. Let's just search all of them. And I want 808. Ooh. But a drum. So drums, is there a clap? Clap. Ooh, that's loud. Apologies. I like that. So once you find one you like, it's easy enough to just drop it in there. And let's see what happens. That's pretty cool. So that's pretty cool. You could do that. Let's try to get like a hybrid snare as well, because this could be a good creative tool to start to layer and make your own creative sounds rather than just replacing drums with other drums. I like that. That's that classic like 707 or something. Not quite 707, but you get the idea. And we can do all layers. Mm. There's like a little sound at the end. So I'm going to show you. They have this editor down here. If you don't see it, you have to go to this CR8 drop down and you can shorten the sample. You can fade out. So I'm going to actually shorten it and fade it out because we just want to get that junk out of there earlier. As soon as the snare is done, we'll just fade it out. Yeah, way cleaner. Pull the volume of that down a little bit. It doesn't sound exactly how I wanted it to, but that's a good example of how you can just make your own custom sounds and layer. It doesn't have to be, a real sounding snare drum, just for what it's worth. There's all sorts of extra. You have 4 mod envelopes here, sequencer type stuff. You also have 4 amp ADSR envelopes. So if you want to get crazy into synthesis and kind of designing how the response of your samples is, you can do all that there. It's a lot. You can get really tweaky with this. You can add more layers right here. It's the same as this. If you want to, say we want this clap to be way shorter. Or say we don't like the little flam at the beginning. So we could pull this up and just get rid of that. Just a tiny bit. A little fade in too. I don't like that actually. Never mind. So if we want this to be even shorter, let's assign this first amp to that clap. And then I don't know where you can see after you've assigned it, but once you do that, you can start to pull this down, kind of tweak the response of it. In case you just want like a weird transient spike on there. Put it on both of them though. See, I'm still trying to figure all this out. I don't want it on this one. I could put amp 2 on that one. Super weird. Put amp 1 on here. There we go. And we'll give you amp 2. Amp 2. No, it's still putting it everywhere. That's kind of a pain. Okay, so you can come here. None. Super weird. Oh, gosh. It does feel really complicated at times. I like it on paper. I think maybe I need to spend a little bit more time with it to fully understand all this, or just don't mess with this. Just use it at surface level for simple, really good tight gating and sample replacement. But if you really want to get into the synthesis and sound design and shaping of your samples, you can do a lot down there. It just depends kind of what you're into. So you can also change the sequence thing here. Oh, weird. Okay, so you can... Okay, wow. Yeah, so this reminds me of if you've ever used Native Instruments Massive, or I think maybe Serum does this too, where you can add a parameter to something. And then, so like, let's take amp 4, for instance, and put it on this snare tuning. And then you can drag it up. So when it hits, it's going to follow the amp envelope with the pitch. Now you can kind of hear it's going. So, man, you got to be brave if you're going into this bottom section. You really need to know your synthesis. I'll just leave it at that. The deeper you go on these little drop downs, the more complicated it gets. But I think for overall quick sample replacement, this is really good. And I especially like the gating process and how quick it is to get your drums clean. And mind you, this is the first day it's been out. I'm sure they will update it and clean things up and make it look better and all of that over time, because they're really good about that in general, Waves is. So who is this for? Who is this maybe not for? I definitely think if you don't have any drum sample replacement and you're trying to get better sounding acoustic drums, like plain and simple, go ahead and pick this up. It's $50. It's way cheaper than any of the other sample replacers out there that I've seen. And it sounds good and it will improve the sound of your drums. I think if you already have Slate Trigger or Addictive Trigger, you don't necessarily need this one unless you're dissatisfied with the way that those other two trigger. I'll say the triggering on this, 10 out of 10. I really like the triggering. The included sounds are good, but they're nothing crazy. And actually, I'm getting a question. So I was checking to see if the included samples had any sort of stereo width or kind of overhead or room samples. One thing that I find myself missing from something like Slate Trigger or Addictive Trigger is it's not triggering a high, it's not triggering an overhead sound or a room mic sound. So this is just replacing the sound of the close mic, which is really good for when you're just putting it as an insert on a close mic. But sometimes if you're completely changing the tone of the snare, and this is just because I've done this like a bunch of times, but if you're completely changing the tone of the snare, you'll also want to add, if not the overhead, at least the room sound of the snare. Because what happens is you have just your snare close mic sound that you've changed. Say the pitch has changed, the tonality has changed, but in your room sound, the room sound of your drums, you still have the old snare. So in this instance where it's a really situational thing for like mixing, but if you are mixing a lot, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where it's nice to trigger that room sound. And this just did not come with any room sounds. You can totally drop in your own room sounds and have it trigger and do all the things with it, but it doesn't come with any. So I think the included drums do leave a little bit to be desired there. Still an upgrade from the perspective of, you don't have any triggering, the sounds are good. And especially if you're dealing with a fix situation, like there's just way too much hi-hat in the snare mic, especially with the AI detection, this will help fix that. I just find myself wanting for a little more sample stuff. Let me check the Yurt Rock now that I'm thinking about it. Let me clear all these out. Okay. So the included Yurt Rock samples, if you happen to get this the week of release, it does come with all the things. So I'm actually, we're going back in. Okay. So let's just go back and we'll do a top sample. This is kind of what I was looking for. Okay, so let's add 2 of those. And let's also see how many it'll let us add. So we'll 2 bottom samples. Let's get 2 top samples. We're going to get 2 bottom samples. Bottom. I'm just loading it up and then we can clean it up later. Overhead. Nice. So I'm going to do the same. You know what? I'm just going to stick to the 1. So that way it's the same hit. So let's add that overhead. We'll just add the room AKG, the center hit. There's some room sound. Okay. And then let's also get the room R88. Don't know what it is, but I want it. Okay. Well, let's check this out now. So now we have a bunch more hits in there. We want them all at once. So I think I like this mixer view better. I wish there were mute and solo buttons here. There's a solo button. So that is top, bottom, hit a little harder there. This is I also don't like that I cannot see the full name of the sample here. That's overhead. Okay. Left, right, left, right. Okay. You can kind of see the whole name if you go here. Otherwise, not so much. So you can do what I was. Okay. I take back what I said. I take back what I said. With the included samples, you have more of that detailed control. And so I think if you are going to pick this up, make sure you get, it doesn't need to be the Yurt Rock, but get some high quality drum sample libraries so that way you can have this detailed control. Nice. I'm going to increase this humanize because it'll just tweak the pitch a little bit. So that's an interesting thing too. It's actually, can I load a different one? Yeah, load. Okay. So it's actually, he's actually playing rim shots. So we're just going to get real deep divey here. Because if you want a regular tutorial, go somewhere else. Just kidding. Okay. That is my dog barking. All right, snare top. So let's do, oh, wow. Okay, so we'll do the rim shot. So we swap that for a rim shot. So now I'm going to go through all these and pick something else. So this is going to be the bottom. And bottom. Rim shot. Boom. And overhead rim shot. Overhead. It's kind of a pain because I can't see anything. Overhead rim shot. Okay. Here we go. Room. AKG. Rim shot. And the other. Oh, I lost it. This one. Rim shot. Let's see if we like that better. Oh, that's better. It's another instance where we need to tell it, hey, play that note. We actually need that note. This one. Yes, play that note. Now what I wish I could do, and I don't think there's a way to do this, but set up, like make this a group and then make another group of like the number 2 sample or the number 3 sample or all 3 and then trigger them round robin. That would be icing on the cake. But this is still really good. I'm glad I'm able to do that. And that definitely puts it into the realm of like, yes, I would use this on a mix or a production. That's a bit of a deep dive there. And I know it's not a straight up like, oh, this is the best thing ever review, because that's not me. I don't do that. But it's really good. I do like it. I'm most impressed with the gating and the separation. And I think once you get used to this interface, it's a brand new interface to me and probably a lot of other people. So once you get used to it and figure out how it works, I think it could be really good. So that's my thoughts on it. Who is it for? I know I started talking about this earlier, but who is it for? Anyone who, if you don't have any sample replacement, get this. This is the cheapest one and probably the easiest to set up and get using as far as triggering goes. Or if you have a triggering program already and you just don't like how you have to get everything set up. The triggering annoys you, or you're always having to manually get out those things. I think that's the big selling point for this is even, it's never going to get perfect detection 100% of the time, but the quick start gets you like 90% of the way there. And then it's really easy to just tell it, hey, no, not that note, or actually, wait, yes, this note. That's a huge plus. And so if you are getting it this week, just go get those Yurt Rock samples with it as well. They're really, really high quality. So who is this not for? If you usually just program MIDI drums, you probably don't have a need for this. This is specifically catered to working with audio. So if you're just programming MIDI drums, you probably don't need this. Or if you have Slate trigger or Addictive trigger or insert trigger program here, if you're happy with another triggering program, you probably don't need to pick this up. But again, at the price point, like right now it's $50. It's $50. You really can't beat that. I hope this was helpful to you. It was super deep divey and took way longer than I initially anticipated. So hopefully I'll be able to edit it down to a little more bite-sized video. But if you have any questions about it or want me to try anything, or especially do a comparison with another drum plugin or anything like that, let me know. I love to get nerdy with drum stuff. Drop all your questions down in the comments. I'll have a link to this down in the description so you can go check it out on the Waves website. I think that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want, buy a mug. I have mugs now. They are on my store, and they hold hot drinks and they hold cold drinks, and everything that a mug usually does, this will do, and it's dishwasher safe. So get a mug. Thanks.